Hey everyone, I post 60-second space news shorts every day on social media. In this week's updates, we talked about everything from the search for alien technosignatures in distant galaxies, to the Polaris Dawn mission, to the cosmic optical background. If you missed the daily updates, enjoy this edit of all the stories, and please like the video and share so we can spread the space science love. Just after midnight tonight Pacific time, SpaceX will launch the Polaris Dawn mission from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center. The 4 private astronauts will have several mission goals, but perhaps the most widely publicized is the first commercial spacewalk, where the astronauts will test out SpaceX's new spacesuits. The mission is a project of billionaire Jared Isaacman, who will also be one of the astronauts. The pilot will be retired USAF Lieutenant Colonel Scott Poteet, and the first 2 SpaceX employees in space, Sarah Gillis and Anna Menon. In addition to the spacewalk on the 3rd day of the mission, the Dragon capsule will reach a maximum altitude of 1,400 kilometers, allowing the crew to perform various experiments in the lower parts of Earth's radiation belts. This is the first of 3 missions planned by Isaacman for the Polaris series, and in addition to pushing private human spaceflight, the flights will be fundraising for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. The launch of the Polaris Dawn mission was scrubbed early this morning after issues with a ground-side helium leak at the launch site. SpaceX team was working the issue and hope to try again tonight just after midnight Pacific time. News in the search for dark matter from the incredibly sensitive LUX-ZEPPELIN dark matter detector. WIMPs, or weakly interacting massive particles, are one popular candidate for the dark matter which makes up around 85% of the mass of our universe. LUX-ZEPPELIN found no evidence for WIMPs above a mass equivalent to about 9 protons, which is a very strong constraint compared to previous measurements. The experiment consists of 10 tons of liquid xenon in an incredibly low background environment a mile below the surface of South Dakota. The idea is that a WIMP bumps into a xenon nucleus, causing it to move and interact in a way that can be detected by the instrument. These results come from about 280 days worth of data, and the large collaboration's ultimate goal is to bump this up to 1,000 days before it ends in 2028. The launch of the Polaris Dawn mission was again postponed this morning due to concerns with the weather forecast in the recovery zone for the date when the capsule would return to Earth. They're waiting for a favorable weather forecast to set a new launch date. The search for alien technological signatures in distant galaxies has received a boost with new research using low-frequency data from the Murchison Wide Field Array in Australia. Kardashev scale quantifies the degree of technological advancement of an alien civilization based on the amount of energy they can capture from their host galaxy. At the upper end of this scale, civilizations could produce large quantities of electromagnetic radiation that should be detectable here on Earth. Previous searches have focused on sources in our galaxy, but this new survey looked at data for 1,300 galaxies beyond our own. Although the astronomers did not detect any signals in the data, they can say that none of the galaxies were emitting radiation in the frequency range of interest exceeding 10 to the 22 watts. If you're able to capture all the energy from the sun, for example, that might be 10 to the 26 watts. Astronomers have used the New Horizons spacecraft to accurately measure the faint background light of the universe. Launched in 2006, New Horizons explored Jupiter and then Pluto, and it's now 5.4 billion miles from Earth in the Kuiper Belt. In the same way that we've measured the cosmic microwave background and found evidence for X-ray, gamma ray, and infrared backgrounds, scientists have been trying to measure the cosmic optical background for some time. The inner solar system has too much sunlight and dust to make the measurement, but now New Horizons has carried its long-range reconnaissance imager far enough away from the sun, the team has been able to use that instrument to observe the COB. They found that the background level of visible light is entirely consistent with the light generated by all the galaxies over the last 12.6 billion years. This means that outside of the galaxies there's just darkness and no other unknown sources of light are needed to explain the observations. This is a super interesting contribution to cosmology, and the research is published in the Astrophysical Journal. NASA announced yesterday that the Starliner capsule will undock from the ISS and return to Earth on Friday, September the 6th, assuming the weather cooperates and there are no technical issues. Capsule will land at White Sands Space Harbor in New Mexico about 6 hours later. As we talked about before, Starliner will return without its crew, who will stay on the ISS until February of next year. NASA has completed deployment of the solar sail on its Advanced Composite Solar Sail System, or ACS-3 mission. This 860 square foot solar sail will now be used to learn more about solar sailing on the solar wind, a continuous stream of particles coming from the sun's corona. This provides an almost unlimited source of propulsion, although of course it does decrease the further away from the sun you go. The mission is orbiting 600 miles above the Earth, and the sail is so big and reflective that it should be easily visible at certain times in the night sky. Check out the Heavens Above website to learn when it will be visible for your location. That's us.